Okay, so we're going to be starting first with a pie chart. And what we're going to be working with, again, if you remember the fund history, that was a lot of information. We're going to be doing the line chart. The assets, however, were the ones that would fit very well in a pie chart. If you select everything, oops, not that much, but if you select starting from the top all the way on down, including these, that'll be our legend, and the assets will end up being our title. Once again, do not select the total, okay, because that'll skew your information. So go ahead and click on pie, and basically we are doing a 2D pie. We'll then transfer it, we'll change it to be a three-dimensional pie chart, and I'll just show you the difference after we create the two-dimensional. We're going to be starting off with a two-dimensional at first. Okay, so once you select that, so you always select your data first that you're going to be including, and then once you select it, and you select your chart that you want to create, you'll see that the chart is over here. What I did in order to move it is I make sure to click on the white background only, okay, and then you just hold on to your mouse, and you can move it around, okay. You want to be sure not to click in this area, because then if you start moving it, basically you're moving your title. Okay, the same thing with your chart. If you start moving it around, you'll be moving your chart around, and then you don't want that. If you want to just move your entire chart, I meant your pie, but if you wanted to move your entire chart, you can move that. Same thing with the legend. If you click here and start doing this, you're basically moving the legend around freely. All right, so what we want to do is we actually want to move it now to a different sheet. We're going to be creating all these charts, as I said earlier, and we're going to be moving them all into the summary report. As soon as we created a chart, please note that we got these new tabs up at the top, all right? So you have your chart tools. You have a design tab under your chart tools. So we have some features here, and we're going to be playing with them. And then you have a layout tab. So again, this is all to do with your chart. And you have your format tab, okay? So I'll be showing you how to use these different things. But for now, let's start by moving this chart. The absolute best way to move a chart, especially if you're moving into a brand new sheet, but even if you're moving into another sheet, is in the design of your chart, which is really the default tab you get open. You're going to use this move chart. I just want to show you something. If you click outside of the tab and you just click on a regular cell, you see how that's all gone, okay? So you only get these tabs when you're clicked on that chart. And if you have a number of different charts, you can only edit the one that you're clicked on, all right? So let's click on Move Chart. If you wanted to create a brand new sheet, you can say New Sheet. The default is Chart 1, Chart 2, similar to like those sheets that were on the bottom. And now what we want to do is really just want to move it into a different sheet. So if you hit the down arrow, these are all your existing sheets. I want to just move it into that summary report, which is this first one. So go ahead and say OK, and it moves into the summary report. So once again, if you want to move it, which I do, just anywhere in the actual background of the chart area, click and hold on to it, and then just drag and drop. All right, I'm just going to scroll down a little bit so I can see a little better. Now I want to resize it. So when you want to resize a chart, very similar to resizing a picture, you come down to the corner, you get these little double arrows, and then you can change the size of it. And I actually want it to fit right up in here. Okay, so you see how you have the title assets. Remember, it pulled it from the information that we had, the data we had. If you wanted to change it, what it says there, you absolutely can. Very similar to PowerPoint, where you just kind of click in here and your cursor is flashing and you can just change it. So I'm just going to make it, I'm starting to type and I'm making it allocation of assets. So you see how big it is? It's taking a lot of that whole area. We can, oops, it's supposed to be centered. I made a mistake and I moved it. So come over to Layout tab on your chart and you see where you have your chart title. I want to make sure it's above the chart and centered. So when you select above the chart, it automatically makes it centered. So that's the fastest, easiest way you can center the chart title rather than trying to move it to the center again on your own. If you want to change the font, okay, you can do a right click and get your little mini toolbar up here, okay, and change the font from there, or the size of the font. You can also hit your home tab, okay. Of course, the absolute fastest is just do a right click on it, and if I want to just make it smaller, I can use my decrease the size of my font button, okay. I don't know why the rest of this legend is not showing better. It is all present, but for some reason it's not showing up. I'm going to see if it, for some reason, sometimes the graphics don't work well on my computer. It is a fairly old computer, so we'll keep playing with it and hopefully it'll come back. But in essence, you should have everything showing up here, okay? All your assets. If I wanted to show the percentage, I can quickly, I'm in Chart Tools, okay? Remember the way we had the merge and center buttons and the auto sum button? It just quickly does a bunch of steps for you, okay? So if you come over here and you select this percentage button, it basically, so you see everything's showed up now. Sometimes the graphics are a little messed up on this computer anyway. So now what I did was, by selecting the one I did, which was this one, we were already there, but what it does is it puts the title on the top, legend on the right, and it adds the percentage. So of course you have some other options as well. You can control this all manually by using your layout button, okay? So the chart title, again, you can move where it lives. Same thing with your legend, and also we can change our data labels, which we're going to be working with a little bit. We are now going to be, see how the data label, one of them is on the outside and then the rest are the inside. We basically want to fix that so that they're all on the outside. Just feel like that would look nicer. So what we can do is you click on the data labels, okay, and that's the label for each piece of that pie, and you can put them on the outside end. So now everything is on the outside. It looks much neater, and we're also going to be changing the way this chart looks. So come over to design. I just want to show you a couple of different things over here. If you click on the chart style, you will see that you can select all these different styles. It doesn't change the chart at all. It's still a two-dimensional pie chart, okay? I personally do not recommend these keeping in the same color family because it's very difficult for some people to decipher each piece of the pie, all right? So you always want to try to keep it in multiple colors, or rather varying colors, I guess you can say. I just selected the bubble, all right? Just looks a little different, gives a little dimension, but that doesn't mean it is a 3D chart. It's just got a little bubble, a little dimension to it. Please note what I did about a minute ago, not a few seconds ago actually. If I click on this one thing, I basically select all pieces of that pie. If I want to select only one piece of the pie, I can click on it one more time. So now you see how that I only have that skinny pie selected, okay? If I want to change the color of only that one skinny piece, just because you have like this blue, and then purple, there's just not enough difference. If you come to your Home tab, go right to your Paint Can, which is like the fill color, and what you can do, I clicked on the red by accident, but I really just want to pick an orange, okay? And just really make it stand out and use a color that has not been used already. Okay, so that's how you can change a color as well. If you come over here, you can also change the font of this if you wanted. If you wanted to make these a little smaller, you could, or larger. Let's say you wanted to add a border around here, around your legend. You can control that as well. So under your layout, you can click on your legend, okay? And these are, again, just some of the quick different options. But if you want some more options, like advanced options, I guess you can say, you can really change it up. So you see the border color right now, it's set to automatic. Once we click on it, so it automatically adds the blue. If you didn't want anything, you could leave it as none. Or if you wanted to pick the color you want, click on solid, and you can make it whatever color you want. If I close that, it's now the red. I know it's a little hard to tell on the screen, but it's now the red. I'm just going to go back into that legend and the options again and just show you. You can also do a fill, okay? So you can do a solid fill, add a color to it if you want. You can do a gradient fill. You just want to be really careful because you don't want it to get too colorful. It gets too distracting from the data. And that's just the rule of thumb, even with your PowerPoint, Excel, all of that. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how you can take this chart and turn it into a 3D chart. Okay. So if you click on design, you can say change the chart type. So it's totally, when you change from two-dimensional chart to a three-dimensional chart, even if you're sticking with a pie or a column or a line, it's always a different chart, okay? So you have to change the chart type altogether. So you see where the pie is, right? So here's all the different things available in the pie. There is one thing called the 3D pie, okay? So look at the layout. I forgot to make a note of this earlier, but basically, because this is a pie chart, okay, you don't have all of these buttons available because they're just not relevant. So the axis titles are not relevant because you don't have an XY axis. The data labels are not available. The axis and the grid lines, those are not available because they're not relevant to a pie chart. The 3D rotation is now available because we just converted this to a 3D chart. Earlier it was only a 2D. So if you start playing with this, I mean, in the book they tell you exact numbers to use, but I want you to really learn how everything looks. So just play with it a little bit, okay? So that's the x-axis, or the x rotation. Here is the y rotation. This one you want to be careful with, and also the perception, or the perspective rather, because you can make it look much larger than it's real. I mean, this looks like, you know, red is taking over the world, especially if you start playing with the perspective too. It just looks like red is taking over the world, and very few people might notice the numbers versus this if you're doing a presentation. So again, just with the 3D, you really want to be careful. Oops. I'm going to come back to my 3D perspective. I'm going to reduce all of that a little bit. Okay, but that's a 3D pie chart. Okay, so I'm going to close this, and I'm going to close this video. That is it for the pie charts.